Just pretend it didn't happen and move on.
Welcome to Books and Banter, a podcast about books. I'm Janine, a library clerk.
And I'm Jess, branch admin.
And we both work at the Winkler branch of South Central Regional Library. In this podcast, we talk about books with our own twist. We read the first half of the book and predict where it might be going, and then finish reading the book and discuss the second half.
There will be snark, there will be spoilers, and depending on the book, there may be references to violence, sex, and other adult topics. So if that's not for you, stop listening now.
All right, let's get into this week's book. All right, so today we are back with a repeat author, LAmour, which makes me want to cry. No, I'm just kidding.
You prefer Louis no more?
Yes, that's exactly right. So today we are reading The First Fast Straw. East Texas wasn't much of a home for Cullen Baker. Few liked him and some even tried to kill him. Yet after 3 hard years of wandering, he's come back to farm the land that's rightfully his. Only Cullen's in for an unwelcome homecoming. His neighbors have long memories, the Reconstructionists have greedy hearts, and his worst enemy has teamed up with a vicious outlaw. But Cullen isn't about to back down. Instead, he's intent on perfecting a new way of gunfighting, the fast draw. And now, with enemies closing in on 3 sides and threatening the woman he loves, he'll have to be faster than lightning and twice as deadly just to survive. This is a standalone novel and was first published on January 1st, 1981. Long before Jess was born.
Not that long.
Well,
I wasn't 13 years.
I wasn't even 1 yet when this book was published. So anyways, so we have discussed Louis L'Amour before, but a few more Louis L'Amour facts for y'all. In the years after leaving Jamestown, where he had grown up, Louis had a sporadic career as a professional boxer. Having been well taught by his father and older brothers, Louis made extra money from an occasional prize fight, and in the year just after his family left Jamestown, he often fought in the ring for the money to buy gas so that they could move on. On more than one occasion, a run of luck allowed him to box full-time. Though he left school in the 10th grade, Louis had a thirst for knowledge. Throughout his life, Louis haunted libraries and bookstores across the country and all over the world. Often he went without meals in order to afford to buy books. He sometimes worked long and hard so that he could quit working temporarily and afford to study full-time. Louis liked to brag that from 1928 until 1942, he read more than 150 nonfiction books a year, and that in order to do it, he worked miserable jobs and lived in Skid Row hotels and campgrounds. So,
The guy should be a librarian.
Yeah, I know.
You get to read full-time on this job. Not.
You're funny.
I know.
So, I'm going to start off by saying I got 10 pages into this book and had to take a nap. So, I will say it got a little more interesting the further I got, but it started off really slow.
The first little bit, I'm like, we can move on now.
Yeah. There's a lot of unnecessary detail, which, this book is not that long. It's 156 pages, 7 chapters, I think. Mm-hmm. We could probably cut it down to about 100 pages, I'm guessing.
You never know if it's going to be important later.
Maybe. I don't know. There was a lot of, extra detail about the area and the flora and fauna and all the things that I didn't really need to know.
Having read Louis L'Amour books in the past, I think pretty much all of them at this point, that may come in handy later.
Okay. Well then.
I have read this book before. But
I know.
Was probably about 15 years ago when I was a wee small child.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think I was saying to you a couple weeks ago, or was this when we were talking about, I like frontier stuff, pioneer time. That stuff is fascinating to me, mm-hmm. but just not in this way. I don't know.
He's doing the pioneering thing. He keeps talking about putting in his crops.
I know,
he's not actually put in any crops yet, but he's talking about it.
He talks about it a lot. He talks a big talk, but that's the thing, Little House on the Prairie, and they're going to a new place, and they're starting from scratch, and I know you don't but that sort of thing I find really fascinating, and I often think I might have liked to live during pioneer times, only I would have hated living in pioneer times.
I really like indoor plumbing.
Yes, there are a lot of modern conveniences that I appreciate, so I would not have made a really excellent pioneer.
I would pay money for you to be a pioneer. That would be hilarious.
Wasn't that a show once? I think, was it Pioneer Quest or something?
Pioneer Quest. We actually have the DVD in the library. It was the Manitoba-Ontario border-ish, I think.
Okay.
And yeah, they got paid to be pioneers for a year. I would pay good money to see you do that. That would be hilarious.
I would be a horrible pioneer.
Do you want to be fantastic? Make the Kardashians do that.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
That would be the top-rated show in the world.
Yes, it would.
Like
people would pay for that for sure.
Yes.
I don't think they would ever go for it, but
they wouldn't go for it, but
it would be amazing.
Can you imagine them with a shovel?
No.
Never. Doing manual labor? Oh, I might break a nail.
Yeah, I know.
Anywho.
Pouring their own glass of water.
Yeah, true.
Like, yeah. No, so, like, yeah, like when he talks about...
I really want to see that now.
When he talks about, like, homesteading and all of those things, like, that stuff is interesting to me, but this book is... And I don't know, maybe I just have a bad attitude about Louis L'Amour. I mean, I
think that's probably it.
It's part of it. Might not be all of it, but I do have a bad attitude about Louis L'Amour.
What do you have against him?
I'm not sure.
I just don't really like him.
No, I don't really care for Westerns, period. Like, it's not really a genre that I would pick up and read.
Yeah, see, I read Louis L'Amour when I should have been reading Little House on the Prairie. So Little House on the Prairie to me is boring as heck.
Yeah. And maybe it's the fact that, like, Mike refuses to read anything. But almost he will read some things. But, like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I bet Mike would really like this book. And so I buy it for him for a gift, and it collects dust. And then he reads Louis L'Amour for the 10th time. We should also note, Mike picked this book for us this time, so...
Yes, he complained about the book that I picked last time, so I said he had to pick the book this time.
He just said he didn't think that was the best book.
Yes, which I disagree with, so I made him pick the book.
And then he picked a book and Jess said, no, I don't want to read that one.
Well, the point was to do a Western, and he picked one of the ones in, like, the 1950s.
One that wasn't really a Western.
Yeah.
So then he said, fine, here's this one. If Jess doesn't like it, then she can pick it. So Jess is
Mike is now my mortal enemy. We're having a gunfight on the main street at noon. He doesn't know about this yet. It'll be a surprise.
Yeah, so, no, it's fine. It's really not that bad.
Although if you hear about a gunfight, it's probably me and Mike.
Oh, no. Can you imagine?
Poor Mike doesn't know he's in for.
Yeah. I don't know if he's been practicing his fast draw.
Well, he'll need to read this book again because he has a tutorial on how to do it.
I guess I'm not the sort of person who would think, hey, let's see how fast I can pull and shoot my gun. You know, like, and I'm going to practice it.
You need to read more Westerns.
I just, like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I find this book quite interesting because this is right after the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Before the Civil War, fast draws weren't really a thing at all. It was more of a, I can aim better, you're good. There's less of the shootout, Main Street, high noon kind of thing. Before the Civil War, not much for gunfights. During the Civil War, they were kind of busy. After the Civil War, it became a lot less of the flintlock and muskets. So you start having a bit more like your standard 6-shooters and stuff like that you'd be more familiar with from like Western movies and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Which wasn't then. Like you had multiple bullets in the chamber and that kind of thing. So you didn't have to like, okay, give me 30 seconds to reload before we continue fighting kind of thing. And as a result, fast draw, the quicker you get your gun into action, you know.
Well, yeah.
Quicker you could win. And you had a lot of gentlemen after the war who were a bit more enthusiastic about violence than one possibly should be.
Yes.
Couple that with the expansion west and gunfights became more of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I find it quite interesting the way that it kind of evolved.
Yeah.
Honestly, I find it interesting when the way anything like society evolves when new technology comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Like World War II, which is way off topic, but World War II started, a lot of your planes were like biplanes and fairly straight, you know, simple prop shaft kind of thing. By the end, we had rocket-powered planes. Like, the advancements in war and the changes that brings to society is just bonkers to me. But anywho, back to this book.
Yes. So he goes home. He meets this woman who I assume he sort of knew from before the war.
Doesn't seem to actually remember much about her.
No.
Like when she said he was there, or when she said that she was there for his fight, he went, Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is her name?
Kate.
Kate. So it's funny that I opened it to the exact page because
Magic.
they were having supper together. He went to her house. And then suddenly he was in love.
There were no other women in the area unless you want a Brokeback situation. Your options are pretty slim.
Anyways, he asked about Chance, which was her brother-in-law.
I forget offhand. I think Chance was a brother. He was related somehow by marriage.
Yeah.
Let's go with brother-in-law. That sounds
think
closest.
so. So he asks about Chance because they were kind of enemies. Cullen, that's the name, right?
Mm-hmm. And don't think I'm not imagining Edward Cullen the entire time. Not in a positive way.
Never even thought of that. And then she says he's in Boston or wherever, and he does not often come to call anyway. And then all of a sudden, like...
He's there, like, the next day.
That evening, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought he was in Boston. How did he get here so fast? Like, Boston and Texas, I don't know a lot about American geography, but I know that they're not close.
It's a few days' ride.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a rocket pony. That would be great.
One of the inventions from the Civil War.
Yeah, there we go.
And so I was like, well, what's going on here, Mr. LAmour?
To be fair, Kate doesn't really keep tabs on his whereabouts. Like,
I know.
She's more along the lines of, he's not here, and that's all I need to know. But it turns out he is here.
Yeah. But I was like, get your facts straight, woman. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I just took her for her word that he was in Boston, and then suddenly he showed up, and then I was like, that's not right.
I think he followed Sam, what's his face, Barlow?
Could be. And also, it's funny when Cullen is talking about his friends, or the men that he is hanging around with, some of them have first names, and some of them only have last names.
You know how men work, right?
I know, it just seems weird. Like, this guy has a first name and a last name, but this guy only has a last name and is only ever referred to by his last name. And this guy is referred to by his first name.
I know a guy who's only referred to as Killer.
Well...
There's a gentleman in the area who's known as Turkey.
Okay, that's...
Like, men name each other dumb things, and they will stick to it for the rest of their life until a dumber name comes along.
That's not what I'm saying. They're not nicknames. The way he talks about them, like, one friend is like Sam Smith, and the next guy is just Friesen. Mm-hmm. And then the next guy is Eddie Baker, and then the next guy is Penner.
Yeah.
It's not nicknames. It's just this guy has a first name and a last name, but this guy only has a last name.
What I'm saying is there's no rhyme or reason to the way men name or refer to other men. Like...
Well, I take this as an inconsistency on the author's part.
Go for it. He did. He doesn't care.
I know, and it's one more strike against him.
Then he's dead?
No. The inconsistencies in his writing.
See, I just see that as authenticity.
I'm looking for nitpicky things.
Yeah, clearly.
As you can see.
Clearly. I will say, the one thing with this book is, I'm pretty good with Western slang because of the overabundance of Louis L'Amour books in my life. But this one, I'm like, dang, there is a lot of it. Mm-hmm. Like, to a point where I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
See?
I know a lot, and I don't even know what that one means.
Yeah.
So, I found that part a little bit. I don't remember it having that much slang, but, I mean, it does amuse me. Some of the slang is hilarious, like, the things that they say. Forget if it was in this one or the other one. And Linda, you may have to edit this out, but someone was described as being nuttier than a squirrel turd. Which I'm like, I will be using that in my repertoire, thank you. I'm like, that's just hilarious to me.
That is funny.
Like I said, I don't remember if it was this one or the other one that we were reading.
Also, I'm 12. Like...
Yeah, but you know exactly what they mean.
I know. It's true.
Yeah. Anyway.
I did think it's rather bold to dig a grave for somebody who's not dead yet.
Honestly, that I found absolutely hilarious.
I'm like, this guy's got some moxie.
Oh, he does. He does. Like, to dig a grave in a very visible spot for someone to put up a gravestone going, this guy killed then by this guy. Mm-hmm. Like
basically saying, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, and you can't do anything about it. Here you go. Just go lie down already.
I know, and you better hope that doesn't backfire on you.
Yeah.
Because, oh boy.
I mean, you don't mess with somebody who's that confident.
No.
At that point, you just go, I'm a head out here now.
Yeah, you tuck tail and run.
Yep.
Basically.
Yeah, you skedaddle.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
what I would do. I don't think this guy is going to do that, though.
No.
But yeah.
Sam, what's his
Sam
face?
Barlow, yeah.
Sam Barlow, okay, I did get that right.
Coward, thief, murderer. Killed by Cullen Baker.
Like,
Yeah.
that guy doesn't have brains, God gave a goose, so he's not going anywhere, but no. There's a point where I'm going, can you get your crops in the ground already? Like, you keep talking about putting in crops. You
I know.
keep talking about it, just put them in,
He's
dude.
too busy practicing his gunslinging.
Well, to be fair, he was beaten up and he crawled through a swamp and he was recovering with his buddies, and then he found another area of swamp that wasn't swamp anymore. That his father also owned. Where it sounds like he's going to be there instead now because the land is better. But for a guy who keeps talking about putting in crops,
He's not getting a lot of
not
crops put
planted
in.
so much as a carrot.
No.
Like,
Yes, it does say here that Katie is his sister-in-law.
okay.
So, yep. So, I don't know.
There's a lot of build up so far. Like, it's only in what last half of chapter 3 that he actually started practicing the fast draw.
Could be.
But
yeah, like, obviously, he is going to kill Sam Barlow.
well, it's written down. It has
It's
to happen
right
now.
here on page 81. So,
Well, it's written on the gravestone.
if it does not happen, that will be a shock.
If it doesn't happen, I mean, that's kind of just embarrassing. You'd have to, like, leave.
Yeah, but part of me is like, well, I know it's going to happen. Why do we need to read the rest of the book?
Well, he's probably also going to kill Chance. And fair to middling chance he's also going to kill the captain.
And then
The
he's
captain? General?
going to ride off into the sunset with Katie.
No, he's going to plant carrots.
Okay.
Gonna get them crops in the ground.
So she'll ride off into the sunset to his homestead,
Possibly.
leaving Aunt Flo to fend for herself.
Well, the other woman turned up. The widow.
Yes. You
She's
think
got some spine.
you think the widow's going to be a distraction?
I think there's a fair to middling chance he'll end up with a widow instead of Kate.
Really? But he loves her.
Yeah, but Kate is also the one that said, why don't you just leave? Run away so no one kills you. And he went, I can't.
Because I love you.
And love, true love, is what brings us together today.
A blessed arrangement.
A dream within a dream.
We should read The Princess Bride.
Why haven't we done The Princess Bride? It's so fantastic.
Yeah. Have you read the book?
Years and years and years ago.
Me too.
Not enough that I remember anything from it compared to the movie.
Yeah.
Anywho, my point is that the widow has more of a backbone than Kate.
Well, yes.
And that counts for a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see him ending up with her.
I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm just saying I won't be surprised if it does.
You've also read this book, so you know what's going to happen.
I read it 15 years ago.
Well, some books just stick with you.
Not this one.
Okay.
Not this one. I remember vague little bits and bops of it, but I think I've read this one once, maybe twice, whereas there's other ones that I've read many more times. It's not even top 10 favorite Louis L'Amours for me, so.
Interesting.
Is it really? Are you bored out of your skull right now?
No. This would be in my top 10.
Because you have two.
This is number 3. This is the
Three.
third Louis L'Amour I've read.
What was the first one?
Bendigo Shafter.
Also not in my top 10. It's fine.
You might have very different feelings on Louis L'Amour, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, some of my favorite Louis L'Amours are like To the Far Blue Mountains, which is the third one of the Sackett series.
Okay.
Fair Blows the Wind. Also, most excellent. Quite enjoyed that one. It has a ship. And we know my feelings about ships.
Yeah, ship
Providing
and a
this came
Western.
out, I know. It's amazing. What's the other one? Oh, I should know it. I've read it like 15 times.
15 times?
You're literally not kidding. Do you know how little I had to read when I was a kid?
I have never read a book 15 times. Ever.
You weren't a child that didn't have library access. Well, suffice it to say, I didn't start reading Louis L'Amour because of the enchanting covers.
What?
I know. Here's a dirty old man.
I know. He
He
couldn't
looks grumpy. Read
be
this.
more dirty. This cover could not be less appealing. I don't think. It's a man.
We should clarify, when we say dirty old man, we mean like physically. Like there's dirt.
Yes, he is.
He looks like he ain't had a bath in 40 years.
Yes, that's exactly how he looks. His clothes are dirty and rumpled, and he looks like he's mad at the world. And there's some nice trees in the background.
One green, one brown.
No, there's like a whole copse. Is that what you would say? Is that the right word?
Yep. No, the one green, one brown thing is from MASH.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, anyways.
Someone's trying to sell them real estate. 2 trees, one green, one brown.
Sold.
Is the best sales tactic I've ever seen in my life. Anywho, where was I going with this?
I don't know. You didn't pick up Louis L'Amour because of the
Yeah, you're right.
captivating covers.
Right.
Perhaps because it said America's Best Storyteller.
No, because there was no local library when I was growing up. We ordered books from PLS, and that arrived in a green bag.
Yep,
and
us
I
too.
read them within a day or two.
That's what we did too.
And I would read anything in sight. I read Robin Hood, written in relatively authentic Old English, when I was 10.
Wow.
Excellent. 10 out of 10 would recommend. We should do it on the podcast. But
Well,
I'm pretty sure you'd shoot me if I made you read that one.
I
Also, not something we have in the library.
was reading adult books probably in my early teens. Christian fiction, because that's what my mom would let me read. But like when I got 14, 15, 16ish, I started reading like John Grisham and stuff. Because there was like kids books and then there was adult books.
Yeah, teen
There
books
was-
as a section wasn't really a thing.
No, like daughter number 1 doesn't read adult books because she's got enough other books to read that to keep
Cater
her.
to her age group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's so much more now than there was back then. So part of it was.
Unless you want to read Lorraine McDaniels.
Oh, I read those so much.
Yeah, see, you read Lorraine McDaniels where people were dying because they were sick and had cancer.
Yes.
I was reading Louis L'Amour where people were dying because they
They
took
were
somebody else's land and
shooting
killed
each
their
other.
cow or,
Yeah.
made their horse or whatever.
I know. As a result of all of those books, though, I now think every ache and pain is cancer, and I'm going to die.
See, I think there's a gunfight around every corner, so...
Oh, the lasting effects of what we read as children, right?
Oh, you have no idea.
But they were
I went
always.
through, here's how desperate I was. There was, these old readers, the collections that had, poetry, they had short stories, they had, everything in them. Published in, the 60s, 70s, I'd say. We had a set of those. I read all of them multiple times. And I was flipping through one the other day, and I went, hang on, this explains why I like the sea. Flip, 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 flip. Hang on, this explains why I like this. Flip, flip, flip. Hang on! My. This explains why I've developed the way I am as a person.
Yeah, it's so true, though.
It is
Those are books.
disturbing to look back to.
Lurleen McDaniel's books I read multiple times. And there was always a new one in the Scholastic book order.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
we often got to pick a book from the Scholastic book order.
Oh, we didn't.
That was where a lot of our books came from. Because they were generally cheaper than going to the store and buying them.
Yeah, no, they're
And
made to be cheap.
We had school library books. We didn't have in our town. The next town over had a public library, but we didn't always have a membership there because I think we had to pay for it. But we ordered from PLS like you with the green bags.
Oh, the green bags brought so much joy. Now
I
they're
know.
just I have to do ILLs.
And we got a big catalog with all the books, and so we would
We didn't get that.
go through and pick out.
We got,
How did you decide what you wanted?
You sent in a paper saying, I want these books.
Okay.
And they went, well, we can get you something. It won't be those, but it'll be something.
Yeah, we didn't always get what we ordered.
No.
But I'm pretty sure we had a catalog.
No. And then eventually, when it got more modern, you could call them and say, I
Yes.
want these books. And that was quicker because you didn't have to wait for the mail. I read so much as a kid.
I know.
Crazy amount.
I remember when I started working here and I saw those green bags and I was like,
Flashback.
what are those green bags doing here? Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. My mom said to me recently that she always wanted to read what I read before I read it, or along with me, so she knew what I was reading. But she said it got to a point where I couldn't keep up, and you were just reading too much, and I couldn't. So then she just had to trust me.
See, my dad was almost the opposite in that I was his source of books. So I bring something home and want to read it and goes, no, I'm reading it. And I'm sure some of it was checking out, but also some of it was just because
He just
I was the supplier.
wanted something to read.
Oh yeah, he reads like crazy.
Yeah.
So I come by it honestly.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
no, he told me a story once of when he was a kid. He read so much he actually trained himself to read with one eye, so he'd rest that other eye, keep the other eye closed, and then when that one eye got too tired, change and rest on the. Yep, it comes by it honestly, like I said. So.
I read with one eye.
I don't recommend that for the record.
Well, I do that when I'm reading at nighttime after I've taken out my contacts because one eye is stronger than the other and sees better. So I read with that eye.
Just now imagine you going, these pirate books be great.
We should wrap it up.
Yeah. I mean, we're just barely getting to the first fast draw, or like the fast draw thing. He hasn't actually drawn on anyone yet.
No.
He's a little marker. Sorry. He hasn't actually drawn on anyone yet.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's just leaving threatening graves at the crossroads with messages basically going, I'm going to get you. So.
Neener, neener, neener. Yeah.
Oh, man. But yeah. So, I mean, I am curious to see what happens in the second half because I don't remember how it all pans out.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious also.
I'm assuming that somebody's going to die. He's going to get himself a wife and finally plant those stinking crops.
I was going to say, I hope that there's some crop planting in part 2 because...
That's the thing we're most invested in.
Well,
are you going to get those crops in the ground?
It keeps coming up, apparently. Who knew?
Well, I think he was plowing at one point. He was plowing because that's when the Witter Fenwick showed up.
Yeah. Witter.
Half my vocabulary is very obscure references. Ignore it. Just pretend it didn't happen and move on. So he's making some progress there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, he needs to get them crops in the ground because there ain't much planting season left.
Nope.
So.
Nope.
Yippers.
But also if he gets killed, it doesn't really matter, so there's also that.
It depends if he marries Kate first or later.
Yeah.
I'd recommend after.
Yeah.
Because, will you marry me? I'm going to go fight that guy.
Yeah.
Seems a bad idea. But, no, they've done dumber things. They have. He jumped into a swamp where there's a known alligator.
Yeah.
That has eaten people. Like, decision-making is a bit difficult for him at times.
Yes, well, he is a man.
True. And with that insult, we'll leave you. Bye.
And we're back with part 2 of the first fast draw by LAmour. So I don't think I really have to ask you. I assume that in the end you enjoyed the book.
Yeah. It's a little bit more book. It's tough not to enjoy. Yeah.
It did pick up a little in the second half for me, I will admit. Still not a favorite, but
when I started the second half, what is the first line actually? Sorry, I'm stealing it here.
That's fine.
Chapter 3. Long chapters.
They're long. There's 7 chapters in this book.
Yes. It started off with, my corn was growing tall when I rode again to the house of Katie Thorne, and I went, yes, he got his crops planted!
I know, I thought of you when I read that.
They don't have to hear about him anymore.
I know.
So I was quite thrilled.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Jess will be happy with this. So yes, that is good. I think it sort of played out mostly how I expected it to play out. There was an arrest and an escape and a gunfight.
And the people who you thought were going to die died.
Yeah. The bad guys were defeated yet again.
I will say, killing off half of his friends at the end felt a little unnecessary, where it's like, you could have just left them. Like, they all kind of dispersed and went, yeah, but you're on your own now. Granted, he told them to.
Yeah, he did.
But then it's like, oh yeah, that guy got ambushed and that guy over there is dead and that one over there just didn't make it. Like, you didn't have to kill them off.
No.
Like, it was unnecessary, but...
No. And, part of me was wondering, why did everybody think this guy was such a bad guy? Is it because he got into a couple of fights back in the day? Mm-hmm. And that's it? Like,
you underestimate the power of a small town.
I guess so. I shouldn't. I grew up in a small town, but he, clearly... throughout the story was a good guy. Like, there was nothing indicating that he was a bad guy.
That doesn't matter in a small town.
And these guys had major grudges against him. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason. But
they're fragile male pride.
Yes.
It's essentially what it boiled down to. I mean, he beat up Chance.
Yeah.
When he was a kid. and he never got over it. Chance never got over it.
Yeah.
And then he showed up Sam and basically was like, yeah, I'm not scared of you, bye-bye.
Yeah, that's true.
And true quote from the book. You'll just also did a little hand wave. Very Brokeback.
If only you could see what she just did.
He basically showed him up and was, I'm not scared of you. And Sam's fragile ego just couldn't take that.
So that part I can see, but, you know, don't guys, like, beat each other to a pulp and then they're fine?
Sometimes.
I don't know. I've never...
Well, not when male pride is at stake.
I've never been in a physical altercation before, but that's not true. I grew up with brothers, so...
Yeah, physical altercations are basically inevitable.
Yeah, there's no avoiding them. Even now, as an adult, sometimes there's still a little shoving.
Well, you have to get to the buffet line.
That's not why they're shoving. We're just pests.
It's the age-old, not touching, you can't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's all in good fun.
Yeah. What did you think of the book?
So the second half was more interesting, for sure. I feel like I got through it a lot quicker. I don't even think I took a nap while I was reading it, so, you know.
On the Janine Nap-O-Meter, no nap was taken.
I mean, the amount of books that I've taken a nap during.
Yeah, I know.
I think naps come up every time we record. We should turn it into a drinking game. Anyways.
Between that and me mentioning Sanderson, people will have no chance. Don't do it. Your kidney won't survive.
No, your liver, not your kidney.
Well, neither, actually.
But anyway, yeah, it was okay.
Not as bad as you thought it would be?
Not as bad. Like, the first half I did not really enjoy. The second half was better. There was a little more action and...
a lot less slang.
And I still also feel like the relationship between him and Katie was, it's fast. It's very fast.
You realize in that day and age, they literally ordered brides by mail, right?
I know.
And it was show up at the station, get the preacher, get married. All right, let's go 3 days into the wilderness and hope it works out.
Yes, I know. I don't know. That part to me seemed a little...
I was actually kind of surprised how long it took, because there was a fair amount of courting and sparking leading up to.
You also didn't think that they would end up together.
No, I just said I think there's a possibility that they won't.
But you would end up with the widow.
At that point, John also wasn't in the picture, so how was I to know?
Yes.
I still don't think Katie's a good fit, but that's besides the point.
Well,
I mean, there's only so many times she can go, no, you have to leave. You must leave. Why aren't you running away? Before it's like, seriously, lady, shut up. He's made a decision. Go away.
That was a little much, all the you should leave. But the widow was also the widow.
Yeah, the widow was like, you should leave so I can buy your land.
Yes. She had ulterior motives, but she kept telling him to leave also.
Yes.
And then he was going to leave. And I was like, no, don't leave. Don't let them bully you out of your home.
Yeah. He was going to leave, and then they showed up. He's like, fine, I guess I'll kill you instead and stay. If that's my alternative.
Yeah. So, but in the end, like, Katie did sort of stand up for the area and the people to, I don't remember who she was talking to. Oh, yeah, the teacher who was who thought he was courting her. Yeah. She was like, what?
Excuse me, you didn't inform me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
What did you think I was doing this whole time?
Yeah, that guy's...
Yeah, I didn't care for him either.
Total creep. Like, if you're dating a lady, let her know.
Yeah.
That's kind of step one. Step two is not to shoot a guy while he's asleep.
Yeah.
I want to know who he shot. Did they ever actually say who he shot?
I don't recall.
Not that I remember. But, yeah. Shooting a guy while he's asleep is not something to brag about.
That's the coward's way out.
I find it rather hilarious that Katie was like, yeah, no, that's not how we do things around here, and that's actually very cowardly, and what's respected is men actually standing up, fighting face to face for what they believe in, not shooting them while they're asleep. So bye-bye.
Yeah. She showed him the door right quick.
Yes.
So yeah, in the beginning I wasn't sure about her. She did redeem herself a little bit by the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy that his corn came up also.
I was just thinking, I don't think he ever got it harvested.
Maybe it wasn't. Oh no, it was ready for harvest. I feel like
because there was a significant gap between the first half of the book and the second half of the book.
Yeah.
Because first half of the book, he's like, I gotta get my corn in, I need to get these crops in. And the second half of the book is the corn is standing tall, and the trees are starting to turn. So I guess all summer was just spent hanging around in the swamps with his buddies.
I guess.
And
I mean,
nobody was hunting him at that point.
Can't be a bad life hanging out with your buddies all the time.
Yeah.
The swamp part I don't really know, but
I don't know.
You know, if there's gators and whatnot.
And gators and the whatnot. Gotta watch out for them gators.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
We stayed at a hotel once in Florida, and it had like 2 buildings that were all like one property. And there was like a path between the 2, and there was a river that ran underneath, and there was a bridge, and there was a sign, a watch out for alligator sign there. And that was like in Orlando, near Disney, so.
Well, gators have no manners.
I know.
Was there not a bear wandering around Disney recently?
A bear?
I was pretty sure a bear got loose in Disney.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
How did a bear get loose in Disney?
I don't know if it was one of their zoo bears or a wild bear.
I don't think they have bears.
I don't know. I don't do Disney.
Because, well, they have like the Animal Kingdom park. I think that's what it's called.
They seriously don't have bears there?
No, they have like a safari ride that you can drive through, and there's like safari animals like giraffes and hippos and all those kinds of things.
If you have hippos, why would you not have a bear?
Because there's no bears in the safari.
But hippos are way more dangerous, so just throw a bear in there.
But it doesn't fit
It'll be fine.
Doesn't fit with the aesthetic. I don't recall seeing a bear there.
Well, somebody did. Maybe he just came to visit the amusements.
Perhaps he escaped from a local zoo.
I don't know. You'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I am going to look that up because that's interesting.
Yes. Anywho, that's the animal aside for the day.
Yes.
Yep, totally draw a blank. Everything's just gone.
I mean, I don't really have a lot to say about this book, to be honest.
It's a good book. I enjoy it.
If you like Westerns, it's not the worst Western I've ever read. Of course, I've only read like 3. So,
of those 3, which was the worst Western you ever read? Because you read Bendigo Shafter, First Fast Draw, and Ride the River.
I can't tell you.
Is it Ride the River?
Yes.
I figured.
I like that one the least. Well, I don't really remember Bendigo Shafter, but because I've read that one like I was like 22, maybe 23.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago for me. So I don't remember that one a lot. It was a lot longer than this one.
No, it's not.
No?
No.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Okay. It felt like it was long.
Well, I think you're just building up a tolerance to LAmour now.
Perhaps I am.
It's your LAmour immunization shots. I was going to say, I think this book, the time period that it takes place in, is quite interesting. Because it's right after the Civil War. And one of the things... he mentioned riding with the Quantrell gang. And... there was another young hotshot going by Dingus, who now goes as Jesse James. I'm like, oh, please tell me Jesse James' first name was actually Dingus.
Is that true, do you think?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I was going to look it up after and totally forgot because I finished this book at about 1 a.m. But
I know, Dingus.
It's like, oh, everybody run. Dingus is coming. I mean, it fits Jesse James a lot better, honestly. The guy was a dingus.
It makes sense that he had to change his name, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was a movie that was made about Jesse James. Colin Farrell played Jesse James. What was it called? American Outlaws or something like that.
Okay.
And it made him seem like not a bad guy.
He shot a kid.
Yeah, I know, he was a bad guy. But in this movie, he was quite likable.
The charming criminals are the ones you have to watch out for.
Well,
but
be that as it may...
Jesse James, the Quantrell gang, Quantrell? I feel like I'm saying that wrong, was well known for being quite, well, let's just say they were bad guys, and there's words I'm not allowed to use when we actually release this, because it'll get shut down. Suffice it to say that they pillaged and plundered, and not in a nice manner, and Jesse James shot a kid just for running out in front of him in the street when he was robbing a bank for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. See, I'm not denying any of that, but in this movie it was like totally opposite. They were quite polite and kind and
just because it's Colin Farrell.
And it was a good, well, I watched it several times. because I really enjoyed it. Anyways,
Anywho,
so I have fond feelings about Jesse James
I do not.
because of this movie.
Also, I kind of feel like it's really bad casting to cast Jesse James as Colin Farrell. Do you know what Jesse James actually looked like?
No idea.
He's like a scrawny little... Linda, if you can put a picture of him on screen, that'd be great. Yeah. Like a scrawny little dude.
She's Googling a picture right now so I can see.
Yeah, like he's not exactly.
Mm-hmm.
He's...
Yeah.
He looks like he's got perpetual short guy syndrome.
That's quite the hairdo he's rocking also.
Yeah. I think it's the giant bow on the front that really gets me, and the bib like. I
mean,
don't actually quite know what article of clothing that is.
There's just all kinds of wrong in that picture.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
He is something.
Yep, he is.
But he had a brother Frank who used to quote Shakespeare all the time.
Yes, that is true. If you haven't watched American Outlaws, though, you should watch it. It's a good movie.
But just take it with about
a pound of salt.
A pound of salt. That's a good. You know those salt blocks that you have for cattle? Get one of those. That'll do you for the movie. This is a very country episode.
Have you seen the movie?
I want to say I have, but it was years and years ago.
Yeah, it came out in like the early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, that tracks. I can picture the cover exactly because we used to have it here, and I checked it out for like 50 billion times. But
you checked it out to other people 50 billion times.
Yeah, to other people. I have taste.
Like, why are you checking it out 50 billion times and you don't remember watching it?
I really like Jesse James. You know, just full on fangirl.
Yeah.
Not.
Anyway. Dingus. Sorry. Just had to throw that in there.
It's just such a fun name, Dingus.
I know, right? If I was going to have another kid, that might be their name. I'm kidding. I'm
like
totally
to
kidding.
See you try and get that one past Mike.
When I was, before the time that I had kids, I would always, like, the most obscure names, I would be like, oh, that's what I'm going to name my kid. And I had a really long list of really bad names that my kid was going to be named. My daughters should be thankful.
Yeah, they should be. My approach to naming my future offspring is very much, can you spell it? Can you say it? And how many ways can this be shortened? And also, how many insults can I turn it into? Because, I mean, there are some names that are just...
A,
like, do you hate your
C, D, E.
children? Yeah, absolutely. Like, why? Why would you?
Well, people have their reasons.
Yeah.
Like Apple. Why would you name your child Apple?
I don't. Because you're famous and you're weird, and that's not even the weirdest thing she's done.
Oh no, she's all kinds of crazy, that one.
Yeah. Anywho, I think the fact that it takes place after the Civil War in Texas is quite interesting, because Texas was quite a conscientious state, because it was only recently actually added to, like, it was added shortly before the Civil War, and there was a lot of expectation that they would fight for the South, but they didn't really align with the South in a lot of ways at the time. So you had a lot of issues in Texas where, like, your neighbor would go fight for the South, you'd go fight for the Union kind of a thing. And I think that plays out quite well in this book. Like, this Sam Baker? Yeah. I believe was Confederate, as was Chase, whereas Cullen... No, not Baker. What's Sam's name?
Barlow.
Baker's Cullen, yeah.
Cullen is Baker.
Barlow fought for the South. Chance fought for the South. Cullen fought for the South for like 3 seconds and went, yeah, no, I'm out, boys, and went to Utah. I did find it hilarious that Katie's like, oh, you were in Utah with all the Mormons. How many wives do you have back there? None. None? Not even a little one. But I think this book does a decent job of depicting the tensions that there were in the communities after the war, because now everybody's kind of going back home and, well, you gotta deal with the fact that you tried to kill your neighbor.
Yeah.
Or the fact that your neighbor might be dead and there's land up for grabs and homesteads that were essentially now abandoned. Mm-hmm. But there's the whole, is he coming back? Is it gonna take a while? You know?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I think this book does a decent job of actually emphasizing that, because you have a lot that are like take place during the Civil War or quite a ways after, where it's kind of everything's been reestablished. Like, there's a lot of the, what do they call them, the Reconstruction guys in these? Mm-hmm. Yeah. and soldiers kind of imposing martial law, and basically everything's kind of, you're resetting up a society. So I think that was quite interesting. But yeah. Do you have any final thoughts, Janine? Because I feel like we're running out here.
All in all, not the worst book I've ever read.
Glowing praise.
Do I want to read another Louis L'Amour? Absolutely not.
We'll get you again next year.
No.
We'll just have our annual Louis L'Amour penance. Next time I'll make you pick. I picked the first one, Mike picked the second one, you can pick the third one.
Okay. We'll see.
Depends how well this one does.
We'll see. Before I read another Louis L'Amour, you're reading a Jane Austen.
Can it have zombies, please?
That's not Jane Austen.
It's Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
Yeah, Jane Austen didn't write that.
Fine.
So, I mean, the ball is in your court now. However long you wait to read a Jane Austen is however long you're going to have to wait to read another Louis L'Amour. She's
That's
thrown
very
down the...
tempting not to just not read a Jane Austen again.
She's thrown down the gauntlet, ladies and gentlemen.
I just really don't like Jane Austen.
I know. I know you don't.
Oh, come on.
She's struggling. You can
I
see.
really, really don't want to read Jane Austen.
Well, I mean, you have lots of time to think about it.
Yeah, we've got quite a few on the schedule before then.
We have our schedule planned for quite a while, so.
Yeah.
So, yes. But, yeah. Definitely the second half was better than the first, also.
A lot more action.
Yep.
Moves a lot quicker.
It does. A lot quicker. So, yeah.
Do you have any fun facts for me?
I sure do. So, today we're going to talk about the fast draw in the fun facts, because obviously the
Seems
book is
appropriate.
the first fast draw. So, fast draw, also known as quick draw, is the ability to quickly draw a handgun and accurately fire it upon a target in the process. The skill was made popular by romanticized depictions of gunslingers in the Western genre, which in turn were inspired by famous historical gunfights in the American Old West. In modern times, fast draw can be seen in both sports and in military practices. The World Fast Draw Association, WFDA for short, is the international sanctioning body of the sport of fast draw. Unlike cowboy action shooting, fast draw is shot with special blanks or wax bullets. While some competitions are strictly against the clock, with the fastest time winning, many are set up as head-to-head single or double elimination matches. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know that this was a real sport where you could compete and whatever, that there was an actual association for it.
I will say the World Fast Draw Association feels a little bit like the Baseball World Series, where they say world, they mean America.
I'm not sure.
I know it's an international sanctions body, but it just feels like it's very, very, very American, where it's like, oh, look, we got a British guy. And that's the international contingent.
Fast draw is one of the fastest sports in the world. Every time is measured under 1 second from the signal to draw to when the timer is stopped. 1 second. That's wild. Mm-hmm. The current World Fast Draw Association record for open class first draw in an event called Standing Balloons is 0.208 seconds. And that includes the time it takes to react, draw, fire, and pop a balloon target at 8 feet away. A world-class competitor can draw and fire a shot in under half a second. Given that the average human reaction time is around 0.2 to 0.25 seconds, the round is over before most people can react. The reaction times of the best fast draw shooter is 0.145 seconds, which means the gun is cocked, drawn, aimed from the hip, and fired in just over 0.06 seconds.
This has got to be the most boring sport to watch.
Well, you blink and you miss it.
Literally.
So then, yeah, I know.
Your entire, international competition with a full, hundreds of competitors can be over in, an hour.
Yeah.
It takes longer to reset up the balloons.
I know. I was wondering about that, too. This can't be a spectator sport.
You never know. People watch weird things.
Well, that is true.
I mean, professional eating is a thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean that takes a little bit longer, but...
People also watch golf, so who might have say?
Baseball.
I watch baseball.
I watch paint dry. Equally thrilling.
No.
Yeah.
Not even close to the same. Not even close. It was a very exciting weekend in baseball this weekend, so, yeah.
Did you nap?
No.
We gotta read a baseball book so you stay awake. Oh, please don't make me read a baseball book. Shouldn't have said that. It's gonna come back and bite me.
It's coming. It's a-coming. No. So yeah, that is some facts about the fast draw. More than I ever thought I would know about it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It's something I find interesting. Like, it makes logical sense. The quicker you can get your gun into play, the quicker you can use it.
Well, yeah.
And defend yourself.
That is logical, yes.
So,
but that there's an actual association and it's a sport. People compete. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was an actual World Fast Draw Association.
The WFDA.
Which just makes it sound like they grade cows for people. I don't know why, but that's what it sounds like they do.
Because of the FDA.
That's the FDA, yeah. That makes sense now. Monday! Yay. Yeah. I mean, I would recommend this book. I think it's interesting. I think it gives you a good look at the Reconstruction in Texas at the time.
It's also a lot of shooting.
Still having a story. And he's a bit snappy, so... I mean, I did laugh a time or two. But that could be because I have quite a weird sense of humor. So
if you don't laugh, don't feel bad.
Well, I mean, there's a point where he says something along the lines of he didn't like this one guy's manners, so he's going to read to him from the book. And just the image of this rough and tough dude standing in front of these other guys like, I don't like your behavior. Now, the good book says you can't do this, you can't do this, and now go and apologize. It's just somehow hilarious to me. I don't know why, but it just, I don't know, tickles me funny bone. So.
That's fair.
Yeah. That and some of the slang in there was just brilliant. But I was going to make a note of it and I completely forget what it was, but I read it. I went back and read it again because I'm like, seriously, I read that right the first time. But I don't know, maybe I can find it. I probably can't.
See, and this is why I bring the books along when we record.
Yeah, that's normally why I take notes if I don't read it at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
The fact that he had a Derringer. Sorry. Derringer's like a teeny tiny gun.
Okay.
It fires 2 bullets. Normally it was like a woman's gun and keep it in a handbag kind of thing. Mm. He has one. It's adorable and tiny.
To think that women would just walk around with guns in their handbags.
Do you know how many times in this book it mentions the women possibly getting molested? Mm-hmm. You're lucky I don't run around with a shotgun. Like, it's quite often that they go, you know, there's one point Katie was being bothered by these guys, and he went, but she wasn't molested, so that's good. I'm like, that's the boundaries that we have here?
Well, it was the Old West.
Yeah. Rough and tough and tumble. I don't find it here. I'm not seeing it. So, anywho, you can just cut all that out, Linda. Because it's very boring. But, anyway, I mean, I would recommend this. I would also recommend... Oh, I kept getting distracted by his mule. Because it was a buckskin mule, and I've never seen one of those. Now I need to look it up. Anyway, sorry. Total Monday brain. I would recommend this book. I think it is good. Would you recommend it, Janine? Janine would recommend that you never touch a LAmour book in your life.
No, if you like action, gunfighting, westerns,
crops,
mules, prison escapes,
that's right. I completely forgot he escaped from prison. Mm-hmm. I mean,
of course he did.
They don't always.
It tracks for LAmour, I feel like.
Yes, all 3 of them that you've read.
Yeah, I'm an expert now.
Did Bendigo Shafter have a prison escape?
I have no idea.
Right. You were young and dinosaurs roamed the earth when you read that book.
Ouch. I'm not that old.
Take it as a compliment. You could have had a pet dinosaur. A pet dinosaur would be awesome.
How do you know I didn't?
Exactly.
So yeah, if all those things are up your alley, then definitely check this one out.
So that's what we thought of the book, but those are just our opinions, and we'd like to hear yours. Leave us a comment.
Thanks for joining us for Books and Banter, and thanks to our editor, Linda. We'll see you next time.